at the beginning, and how did you get into MMA?
I've always been a fan of like one-on-one sports, boxing, fighting, obviously. Not just any fighting, but boxing, Muay Thai. Now MMA is cool because it's not just one-dimensional, you know, it's got everything. And I wrestled in high school. I was interested in striking, so I did boxing and stuff like that when I was a little younger. And then also I did Muay Thai when I turned 18, and then I just went out, throw it all together and try it out, so that's why I started.
MMA isn't necessarily the most popular sport when you're a parent, I can imagine, because of the nature of it. So I guess what I want to know is, how do your parents feel about this?
My mom's always been like pretty down with whatever I want to do, you know, she's always like, yeah, go for it. So she's supportive, but my dad, he's kind of the one, he was like, oh, why would you want to do that? Yeah, go get your face pounded, go have fun, you know, being sarcastic with me and stuff like that. But he's just being a dad, but he wasn't very supportive, but once he saw that it was like something I'm really dedicated to, and you know, he sees me going to the gym every morning, you know, 5 days a week, and then he sees, hey dad, I won. Every time I call him, I'm winning, and so he's supportive now that he's starting to see some results and some payoff to it. He's like, oh, I love it.
So what do you do in terms of training? What does your day look like? What's your regimen?
Daily basis, I usually work out Monday through Friday. I'll work out, I'll do on Mondays, I wake up at about 7, I go to District 7 CrossFit right here in Rancho down the street. I'll do an hour of CrossFit. I come over here, rest for an hour, rest from 9 to 10. 10 o'clock's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with Marcelo Mafra and Romy. Ram, obviously, and Batiste Mansouri. I do that for an hour. And then after with Kem and Johan, our new Muay Thai trainers, really good guys from France. They hold pads for me, and I work on my Muay Thai for an hour. That's Mondays. Tuesdays, I don't do CrossFit, but I train the pro practice. So it's guys that are 185 and up in weight. Rounds of sparring, rounds of rolling, MMA training, stuff like that. Hour of technique, hour of sparring. Wednesday's the same as Monday, Thursday's the same as Tuesday. Fridays I just do jiu-jitsu and roll.
So what's your long-term goal through all of this?
My long-term goal is to be the UFC middleweight champion. Hands down, that's all I want. I just want that belt. I'm a big believer in you work hard and it pays off. I don't think anybody that works hard at something doesn't get paid off in some way. And I just feel that, you know, if I just continue to train as hard as I am and stay with Romy and Batiste and my manager, World Sports Management, Steve Lara, owner of that, stay under their wings and kind of, they'll guide my career where it's supposed to be, train hard, and I'll just end up there. I think it just falls in your lap, you know. I think stuff like that works out, and I'll be there. It'll work out. A year and a half ago, I wasn't doing MMA, and I was sitting on my couch, you know, just going to school and drinking on the weekends, doing whatever I wanted to do, being the typical college student. A year and a half later, I'm the #1 ranked fighter in the state, you know. Just takes work and dedication, you know.
Huge accomplishment.
Yeah, a huge accomplishment for me. I'm proud of it. You know, it's just I'm just an amateur, you know, but it just, for me, as just for myself, it's a big goal for myself. I'm proud of myself for it.
A lot of fighters don't necessarily, that are pro, they don't necessarily have a lot of the amateur experience. How do you feel having these amateur fights and this amateur experience is going to better you?
I just think it gives you the ring experience, you know, because I remember my first fight till now, you know, I definitely have a different mentality going into it. My first fight, I was, oh man, I did not want to get in that cage. I mean, I didn't tell anybody that, you know, but I was like, oh no, what did I do? What did I get myself into? You know, now I'm like excited to get in, I want to get in, I'm hungry, you know. But it's good, you know, it gets your jitters out. A lot of guys that go pro, their first fight is their first pro fight. And they're in there and they get scared, they're nervous, their technique goes out the window, they're throwing with everything they got the first round, the second round they're gassed, third round they're dead, you know what I mean? So it definitely gives you that edge, and it's cool because Batiste and Romy and Steve, you know, they told me, let's get you established as an amateur, let's get your experience in, and then we're going to get you to go pro. Just like my buddy Mike Flack, he's one of my main training partners, doing the same for him. And another guy named Jonathan Wilson, very, very good guy too. He's actually 6-0 right now, and they're doing the same thing for him. So that's the route they're trying to go now, you know, get us all experience as an amateur. Then as we turn pro, we'll just like another day in the park.
You mentioned a lot of people that work with you. How do you feel that Batiste and Steve and Romy are helping you prepare for these goals?
Just like I said, you know, just kind of build me up as an amateur and getting my experience. And, you know, they have me training like a pro. You know, I don't train like an amateur. I'm in here with really good guys all the time. Reggie Iron Ore, he's one of the guys I look up to a lot. He helps me with a lot of stuff I do. Lorenz Larkin, they got me sparring really, really good guys. And I think that's what they're building me up like that. Also, they take care of me, man. Those I owe everything to those guys, Batiste and Romy and Steve. They take care of me, you know, and I intend to take care of them when I go pro as well.
MMA doesn't necessarily have the best view in the media. It's kind of a negative thing, brutes, there's a lot of meatheads, it's cruel, things like that. Being somebody that's dedicated and given a lot of themselves to this sport, can you tell us maybe some of the positive views and your take on the negative views?
I think that, you know, the stereotype of MMA, I know a lot of people I meet, sometimes I don't like to tell them I fight, you know, because they have a certain stereotype. They're like, oh, what, you do MMA, you know, like that kind of thing. But I don't think there's really, you know, there's negative stuff about it. You know, everything has its meatheads in it, you know. Everybody, because everybody's a jerk. So there's jerks in football, there's jerks in hockey, there's jerks, but there's also really good guys, you know. Look at guys like GSP, very humble guy. You know, you watch any UFC fight, there's gonna be good guys and bad guys, but I don't think it's just a sport where it's a bunch of meatheads beating up on each other. You know, I think it takes dedication, and there's a lot of skill to it. And if someone would give it a chance and watch it and really just pay attention to it closely, it's a really complex thing, and I think it's a really good thing. And I think it takes a certain kind of person to get up every day and push yourself to the limits of like complete exhaustion, you know, and then step in a cage in front of thousands of people and to entertain them, you know what I mean? It takes a certain kind of person, and I think that's a very positive thing, you know?
So your fight with Edmund Marshall, you actually had a fight in the ring versus in the cage. What kind of problems did that present, or difficulties, if any?
It was a little bit different. You know, I train in a cage most of the time, but, you know, we do, right behind me right here, this ring, we spar in this ring a lot too, so kind of have an idea of how to defend myself off the ropes too, like if I were to try to take down, or if he tried to, you know, shoot on me or something. So not too different, it's pretty similar.
So how much notice did you actually have before the Edmund Marshall fight? Did you know anything about his fighting style? Did you have any time to prepare? What was that about?
A little, because, you know, I mean, his record wasn't like, you know, like I was like, oh my God, this guy's gonna like run through me or anything like that, you know, but it was definitely like, oh man, you know, I'm not gonna underestimate him, definitely, you know, because if I can go in there and he throws some crazy taekwondo kick and knocks me out in 10 seconds, you know what I mean, so kind of keep that in mind.
In the heavyweight division, introducing our referee in charge of this bout, Ayer. And now, introducing to you first, fighting out of the blue corner, he is wearing black trunks. He is training out of Poa Fighters in San Bernardino, California. He weighed in 210 pounds. His record, no wins, with 3 losses. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Edmund, the Women Marshal! His opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, he is wearing white trunks, trimmed in black. He is training out of Millennia MMA in Rancho Cucamonga by way of Montclair, California. He weighed in 206 pounds. He brings to the ring an undefeated record, 2 wins with no losses. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Nick Higgins! All right, fans, here we go. 3 rounds of mixed martial arts in the heavyweight division.
Well, Jeff, these 2 heavyweights look primed and ready to go. You look at Banks, 2-0 record, Marshall 0-2. Marshall again out of the blue corner, Banks out of the red corner. And we're going to see, we talked about these guys before, they're toe-to-toe and strikers and grapplers, and we're going to see how this one plays out.
Well, the interesting thing, too, is these fighters also having to make the necessary in-fight adjustments. And a lot of times that's dictated by how your opponent attacks you.
And Banks with the takedown on Marshall right off the bat. Marshall with a left arm over and wrapping around the neck of Banks. You know, we look at Camo and what they've done here with mixed martial arts. They've really brought this sport to the forefront.
The expansion, too, and the interest of MMA has been generated nationally, but Camo, as you mentioned, doing a great job getting local fighters involved in the sport in the amateur ranks as they eventually hope to turn professionals.
A half mount by Banks on top of Marshall. Marshall with the left arm looking for the choke. That's been the mode of operation thus far in this first of what's scheduled for 3 rounds. And Marshall looks like a strong heavyweight. Hard to get out of that.
Well, he's trying to choke him out, and actually Banks in the more dominant position initially, but he's had a hard time getting out of that headlock.
So some grappling here, and right now, as you mentioned, Marshall underneath, but he's got the more promising position right now on Banks.
Well,
Banks able to get his head out of that choke.
Well, the one thing Banks wants to do is to try to get some jabs into the middle part of his midsection to try to get him to drop that arm or let go of that chokehold.
So now we go to a little ground and pound. Banks with the left hand straight to the head on Marshall. And Jeff Tolcher, Marshall took a bit of a pounding there.
Well, it gives credence to the old adage, saved by the bell. He was saved by the end of that round. And one of the things Banks was able to do was to get out of that chokehold. And once he was able to get out of that particular situation, he was able to unleash about 7 or 8 punches to do some damage and take the first round.
Well, clearly, after Marshall was in control for the most part, in spite of the half mount by Banks, Banks ended up getting the better of the exchange and perhaps stealing that round from that man right there, Edmund Marshall.
And the margin of error in the amateur ranks is so small. Fights not only can end quickly, but they can also turn quickly. And that's one of the adjustments that you'll see from these fighters when they go to their corners. They talk to their trainers. Trainers are giving them instruction on what to do because there is not a lot of experience. The fighters now have to take what their trainers tell them and apply it to the ring.
Myron Ayer, our referee in charge. Telling Banks, Marshall, make sure that mouthpiece is in. And here we go, round number 2. Marshall going straight to his back. That was not a knockdown or a takedown, and then the heel of Banks to the midsection of Marshall. Not effective. You know, for somebody who doesn't see mixed martial arts very often, this almost looks comical with the way the fighters approach, you know, this grappling part of the fight. Some fighters like to strike and stay up, but these two fighters clearly satisfied with the ground and pound.
And you would think that it's more of the heavyweights, the larger type fighters that would want to stand up and go toe-to-toe and not get on the ground, but that's not been the case in this fight, as now Banks unleashing everything he's got.
Well, and Marshall not defending himself clearly, so you have to wonder how much longer Myron Ayer, the referee in charge, will let it go.
Well, the hard part, too, and they stop it, is the strikes to the back of the head, but this one's over.
And as a fighter now, as Marshall will move to 0-3 at the amateur level, how much beating do you want to take before you call it a night?
Well, at that point, you're almost at the mercy of the official. The official has to make that determination. Once the fighter stops defending himself, then the referee steps in and it's over.
Well, this first of 3 scheduled didn't take long. We'll get the official time in just a moment. Camo, California Amateur Mixed Martial Arts Organization. As you look at the winner, Nicholas Banks. This fight stopped by Myron Ayer due to strikes.
Now you could certainly see the difference in the styles too, Fred. 2 different types of fighters. Banks looked like the more polished MMA fighter in that situation. Marshall was on the defensive pretty much throughout this bout.
Yeah, and the only thing that he really managed to do was in round number 1 was get a couple of temporary chokeholds on Nicholas Banks that Banks was able to get his way out of and end up ultimately winning the fight.
And that may have been Marshall's one chance to win the fight. Once Banks was able to get out of there, there's a good look at him there, Nicholas Banks. But once Banks was able to get out of that chokehold, he pretty much took control of the fight and winds up getting the victory.
Banks out of Montclair, California, 5'11", good size heavyweight. And we're just about ready. There's Edmund Marshall out of the blue corner.
Ladies and gentlemen, at 59 seconds of round number 2, the preparation starts. Mike Lear stops the contest due to a tap out from strikes. Our winner in the red corner, he is still undefeated, Nick.
So looking back on it now that we've watched it, can you recap the Edmund Marshall fight for us?
Well, one, I didn't really know what to expect, you know? That was just kind of like, I was like, uh-oh, where am I going with this? What's going to happen? I know really what he's going to come at me with. That was just one thing I remember thinking in my head. As far as the fight goes, I know once I took him down and I could just feel the way his weight was, he was kind of trying to keep his weight. I felt he had really wasn't the best on the ground. So I just probably wanted to keep the fight on the ground to make it an easy night, you know. And that fight I remember specifically, Romy telling me that he's like, this fight we're going to be calm. It was my third fight. I think it was my third fight, and he said, you know, we're going to be calm. We're just going to just relax, you know, just keep it chill. Don't gas yourself. Just pace yourself. You know, you don't have to hit him with everything you got when you hit. Just really work on good positioning and good technique. So I was like, okay. So I remember going in that fight as, you know, okay, I'm not try to go nuts today, you know. Obviously try to win the fight, but just kind of. So yeah, the first round it went good. I was working on crucifix a lot at the time. Got him in a crucifix. So that was like a good little accomplishment for me. And the second round he came out and I think he threw some weird kick and fell, which was good for me. I didn't even have to work for the takedown. And then got good position on him and just finished it. Like I said, you know, I felt like I was better than him on the ground, so I just kind of controlled it, and that was pretty much it. End of the fight there.
So you had a fight against Andre Nicholson. Tell us about that.
Yeah, you know, anytime you get in the cage with an explosive dude, you know, who, a lot of his fights are on YouTube, so I've seen his fights, and he was cracking on guys, and, you know, I'm thinking in my head, well, I'm possibly going to be one of those guys he's cracking on, you know. So, you know, it's scary, but at the same time, I got to remember that I'm a 205-pound person too, you know what I mean? I'm just his size, so he's got to think in his head that he's got something to deal with too, you know? It's not just him that's intimidating. Yeah. So, you know, just as much as I might have been intimidated by him, he should be intimidated by me too, you know? I try to keep that in mind and just go in there and not let him bully you around. You got to own the fight, you know? You can't just lose the fight before you lose the fight, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
He'll be taking on Andre the Closer Nicholson. These two guys are collectively with 8 fights, with only 1 loss between them. That for Nicholson coming out next. Neither one is looking to pad their record with an easy fight, are they? All right.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough fight for both guys. 1 loss between the two of them, like you said, 7-1 combined record. Nick Banks making his, I believe, his debut though at 205, normally a heavyweight fighter. Andre Nicholson, we know him as the closer, about to make his way in the cage. No slouching as far as...
All right, let's get his opponent out.
Here he goes.
Fighting out of the red corner, coming with a record of 3-1. He is 38 years old, fighting out of Rumble Squad and Kings MMA. Give it up for Andre Nicholson!
If he can prevent himself from gassing, he has incredible power and incredible strength. The key to victory is staying poised and keeping his conditioning.
I mean, true, correct me if I'm not mistaken, but if last time we seen the Golden fight, that was the reason, one of the reasons he lost is his conditioning. And for Banks coming down to 205, obviously he's coming in shape to make 205. So it's going to be a big day. Hopefully the closer, Nicholson, comes out here and proves that it was a fluke, a loss, and comes out. I mean, to beat Nick Banks with a record of 4-0 would be very impressive.
Yeah, Banks also a very, very solid guy. He looks powerful, as does the closer. And again, I think you nailed it with the cardio. We saw Nicholson struggle with that a little bit before. He's very dangerous. Banks, if cardio is not a problem for him, might be looking to gradually take the fight over. Yeah, Andre is a very muscular guy, and muscle takes a lot of oxygen to work. So because he's so muscular, it takes him so much oxygen, he gasses out easier than other guys. As he makes his entrance into the ring, the cage, the showman, Andre the Closer, Nicholson. I also remember from that fight that the Closer was a guy who fought pretty much every second of every round, even when he was tired, even when he was winning, even when he was losing. That guy just knows what he's here to do.
Definitely. We got 4 exciting fights, including the ladies and title fight. But right now, these wars are about to throw down. So I'm going to ask you once again, Small Star MMA fans, let's give it up for these guys. Are you ready for a fight?
3 2-minute rounds scheduled. The closer, Andre Nicholson, 3-1. Nick Banks in the blue, he's 4-0.
Two big guys ready
could
to go.
Be explosive, absolutely.
Nice kick by Banks.
Closer's got a lot of personality, and he can't even hide it when he's fighting. You just see he's got some personality. He's an exciting guy. Banks, however, looks extremely serious and very intense. Nice double jab to the chin from the closer. Big leg kick. This pace is starting to get closer to what happened the last time we saw the closer. I think part of the cardio problem he had last time was the pace was frenetic. It was fast. And the closer here loading up on the right hand. Big left jab. The closer wants to land that knockout right hand. Yeah, Banks has got to stay away from that right hand.
They don't call him the closer for nothing. He looks to close the fight every punch that he throws.
And I like how Andre is using that double jab to get the distance to get it. Big front kick, left hook knockout. Whoa, Banks cashes in on the closer. Nick Banks looking Machida-esque. The front kick, left hook knockout. Unbelievable, stunning the closer, Nicholson. Nicholson's a little upset, I think, at the stoppage. But I tell you what, he was going in and doing some damage on Banks. And then Banks didn't. Which sometimes you don't expect, even though you should. He countered effectively. Twice.
Nick Banks threw that front kick, threw Nicholson off, and caught him with that hook, and finished out as a great win against Nicholson. Nicholson's a very tough opponent. As you can see, he's not happy about the results, but he's a very tough guy. But at the same time, Nick Banks going 5-0. Tough opponent.
I mean, Banks showed us why he is undefeated, but I think he just yelled to his fans outside the cage, a friend of his, that Andre the Closer cracked him. He hit him with a shot, and he did. I think Andre hurt him, but he countered fast with that front kick and that hook. and he closed the closer. And that is not easy to do.
That night happened to be extremely electric in the room. I mean, people had to be told to sit back down in their chairs. There was security all over the place, and this was a big fight that everyone was waiting for. Did that electricity help you out in the cage at all? Did you feel it?
Yeah, I remember feeling amped up. I remember that was the first fight my dad actually went to, and I won it in that fashion. I remember looking over at my dad, like through the cage, and my dad's an older guy. You know what I mean? He's like 55, and he's very calm all the time, and he's jumping up and down and freaking out. So that gave me a lot of energy. I saw that from my dad, and I was like, like I started freaking out, you know. But yeah, I mean, I definitely felt the energy from him. You know, he was coming at me pretty hard, and you know, it was a good fight.
Andre Nicholson is a big guy. He's big, he's got the mohawk, he's intimidating. He has that presence about him, it's very intimidating. Did that play a factor in how you fought that fight that night?
I just knew that he had pretty vicious hands. Fast, obviously explosive, big, strong guy. And I just knew that he ate leg kicks. I watched him fight this guy named Moses Murrieta, and every leg kick that Moses threw at him, he was just taking them. And that just happens to be my strength. I've pretty good Muay Thai, or some of my coaches tell me. So like, yeah, just kick him. Just kick him. Don't even worry about his hands. Don't even, you know. So I said, okay. So I went in there, and sure enough, just started kicking him. He was just eating kicks. I was like, oh, I'll do this all day. And then I saw him kind of leaning forward with his chin out. So I just, boom, and then that was the fight.
So what was it like to have your dad see you fight for the first time?
Oh, totally did. Yeah, I totally did. You know, my dad, I think what my dad thought it was it was like a very like a small time thing, you know. He didn't really realize like how big it was, you know what I mean? So when he went, and there was a lot of people there, and it's this actual event, and it's legit, there's referees, and there's judges, and there's my coaches are there, you know what I mean? He sees the guy I'm fighting, the weigh-ins and all this stuff. It definitely turned his mind around, you know, especially he even told me after, he's like, you know what, Nick? He's like, man, I would never have the courage to do that. He's like, I have so much more respect for you now and all this stuff. So I was like, oh, that's cool. You know, I was really excited about that. And then after the fight, he's like, that was the most exciting thing I've ever seen in my life. And for my dad to tell me that, you know, it meant a lot, and it was cool.
Better than winning the fight, I'm sure.
Oh, big time. It was cool to just have my dad there. I was nervous though, because I'm like, dang, like I think Andre Nicholson was like the first tough guy I ever really fought. My other fights, not that they were like, you know, bad fighters or anything, but Nicholson was like a next step, you know. And for my dad to be there for that fight, I'm like, oh God, don't lose this fight, don't get knocked out. That's always my fear, just looking through the cage and getting my head pounded and looking at my dad, you know what I mean?
So now that your dad has seen what you do and how it pays off, is he your #1 fan now?
Oh yeah, he's all about it. He was there. I got a title under Knockout Promotions. He was there for when I won my belt, so that was good. Having my first getting belted for the first time with my dad there, and he's been to some fights after that, and he loves it now. He's like into it. He's a big fan of some of my training partners. He likes, like I said, Reggie and Lorenz. Like he likes always asking about them and asking about my coaches and how the gym's going and stuff. So he's really into it now. Every time before I fight, I'm like, I get this like nervousness, you know. I think every fighter does, but I'm like, why am I doing this? Why don't I just go back to school? I don't want to do this anymore, and I get all scared and stuff. But as soon as I get my hand raised, or even if I don't get my hand raised, you know, it's a learning experience. So this is cool. This is something I really want to do. You know, even if I live like a mediocre life, you know, and I can fight MMA, I'll be happy.